Welcome into the a weekly look at the American Hockey League and the teams, players, and coaches making headlines in the second best hockey league in the world. My name is Ali Berube, the host of the A. Just about 3 weeks into the season, we have a very special guest on the show this week, League Commissioner, President, and CEO Scott Howson, who joined the American Hockey League in this role in July of 2020. He spent time previously as the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets and was an executive with the Edmonton Oilers, now tasked with leading the developmental league that fuels the National Hockey League. Thank you so much for joining us. And when you look at your role and the way it's evolved over the last 5 years since taking on this challenge in 2020, how has the AHL changed and gotten to where it is today?
Yeah, great question. Well, the first couple of years we're just getting through that COVID epidemic that we had, and our league came through very well. The teams did such a great job. We had terrific support from the National Hockey League. As you know, we got our players on the ice for a partial season. Minor League Baseball missed the whole season, but we got our players on the ice. I was very proud of that. And since then, Ali, I mean, I think we've just grown and grown. Each year we keep doing better and better. I think our game gets better. I just was in a text conversation with former President Dave Andrews today, and he said he was in Tucson, and we both remarked at how fast it's gotten and how skilled the players are, and our game is just in a terrific spot. So those are the things that sort of stick out for me, is how things have changed. The game continues to get better. The game's in a great spot. And our teams are, by and large, hitting it out of the park.
Yeah, I think the word I keep hearing, or the two words I should say, is highly skilled. I feel like when you talk to any team across the league, it's, oh, we're highly skilled this year. And I think you've watched the AHL evolve and what hockey looks like on every level, right? I think about former Hershey Bears coach Todd Nelson telling me, like, when he played, it was really physical and you were grabbing and yanking guys around. And now it's all about how fast. So like the physical build of a hockey player is completely changed, in the couple decades since he played. But where do you think the game is now, as you guys are considered the second best hockey league in the world? And you really have a very key role in developing the next level of Stanley Cup champions and NHLers. What is the role of the AHL in your words?
Well, the word that comes to mind is development. There's very few players that are able to go right from wherever they came from, whether it's Europe or it's college or it's junior hockey, and go right to the NHL. And certainly we've seen that through the Hershey-Washington connection, whether it's Protas, a bunch of other players that have Lapierre that have needed time in Hershey and gained valuable time, won Calder Cups. Those are invaluable experiences. So I think it really is about development. Our game, like you said, is highly skilled and it's fast. And the NHL's a hard league, and our league is a hard league. And some of these younger players need the time in our league to adjust. It's the strength and the speed goes up quite a bit from where they came from, and they just need that time to adjust. So, and not only for the players, coaches, officials. Don't forget about the officials. All of our officials in the NHL have come through the AHL, and then executives and trainers and support staff too. So we're all about development.
Yeah, I think there's so many different roles that can find kind of their feet under them in the AHL. And I think about the way the league has trended. And again, my lens is always through the Bears or the teams that we cover. And we have a junior team here in central Pennsylvania, and you watch that level. And then you will watch Penn State men's hockey. And I'm always struck by how different the college game is to the pro game. And then you see the AHL, and then you end up somewhere, in an NHL arena, and you realize just the time and space is totally different. Are you seeing that the development that you guys are having is making an impact for your NHL partners? And we know each franchise looks at how they use their AHL team a little bit differently, but on a whole, are you feeling like the feedback from the NHL is that the AHL is doing a good enough job at preparing people for the next level?
There's no doubt it is. As you said, I think teams have different priorities. Teams can be in different cycles. You can be in a cycle like one of your Pennsylvania neighbors, Wilkes-Barre is right now, where they've had to sort of retool. Now they're doing a great job at the NHL level, which is a little bit unexpected, I think, for everybody, but hopefully that continues for them. But a huge emphasis on Wilkes-Barre and making sure that that environment is right for their players and to develop. And I think, but there's other teams that aren't in that cycle. They're more trying to win right now. I think of the Oilers right now that are probably, they're ready to try and win a cup, and a little bit the Panthers too. They don't neglect their AHL team, but they don't have the vast amount of prospects maybe coming through that some of the other groups do. So I don't think there's any doubt we're serving our purpose. Are there hiccups? Are there things we can improve? Of course, but there's a reason why our league is so successful and why NHL teams have not only decided to invest with prospects, but a lot of teams have bought teams in our league because they want to control that development, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins off to a 7-1 start. So certainly those prospects are making their name here in the AHL and getting a lot of attention across not just in the A, but really hockey in general for some of the excitement that they've been able to put on the ice. I think about some of the maybe criticisms of the league right now, and I think it's a young league, and I think it's gotten younger and younger. When you look at the vet rule and the way that it's impacting some of those older players, but not quite at the end of their hockey career, having to take on opportunities overseas, can you explain the motivation behind the veteran rule and how it's really playing out here as you do focus on the development of some of these younger prospects and kind of filling that gap? But I think you are in these conversations every single day. Like there is some criticism. Are we doing enough with the veterans, and do we have enough on the roster? And what is the proper balance? I think that could be
Yeah.
debated forever.
Yeah, yeah. I think the proper balance is depending on who you talk to. There's no doubt the one of the keys to the success of this league in terms of NHL affiliates is you have to dress 12 players underneath that haven't played 260 games, and that keeps the league young. Because what would happen if we loosen that rule is that the young players wouldn't play as much because the older players are better. I mean, you've seen that on Hershey where they won two Calder Cups. The older players are better. They carry the team. You need good younger players to win it all. But by and large, there's times in the season where the older players are going to play and play ahead of them. And we think we have the right balance. It's 6 and 12. The goalies are exempt, so the goalies can play. They don't factor into that veteran rule. It's all about skaters, and it's 12 and 6, and we think that that is the proper balance. And the veterans are really valuable. I mean, they earn higher salaries, and they earn higher salaries for two reasons, really, because they're really good players still, and because they can provide mentorship to the younger players. And NHL teams really, really value that mentorship aspect of being good people, of teaching the young players not only what to do on the ice, but also what to do off the ice, how to conduct yourself, how to prepare. And I don't think there's probably a younger player that's come through Hershey or anywhere else that hasn't had a good veteran that's helped them along the way.
Well, right now they have a guy in their mid 30s in Aaron Ness leading a whole bunch of 18, 19-year-old kids. So
Yeah.
it certainly is a different balance here in Hershey. But when you look at, as you talked about, the role with an AHL team and an NHL team, and everyone is different, right? Some are independently owned, some are owned by the NHL franchises. And as you try to balance that, that's a very different financial situation depending on which side of that coin you're on. How do you try to help support your AHL organizations through that, knowing that resources can be hard, travel is expensive. You want a competitive product on the ice so you can sell tickets and sponsorships, but do you find it's not as universal, I think, as an NHL franchise would approach this? There's very unique approaches based on what type of AHL organization you have.
Yeah, I think you've got the two buckets. You've got the teams that are non-NHL owned, and the teams that are NHL owned, and they control everything. So, and quite frankly, it's a development cost for them. If they can do a good job, if the NHL team can do a good job in providing an environment for a player to be successful and eventually graduate to the NHL, then that not only helps their team on the ice, but it helps their team financially because in a cap world, you have to have, excuse me, some younger players coming through. For the independently owned teams that aren't NHL owned, they all have their own sort of separate agreements with their NHL partner, and some they're similar in a lot of respects and different in a lot of respects. But the overall goal doesn't really change. It's we want to have a good team, we want to develop players, and sell tickets and make sure that the people that are coming to the games get value. And we're fortunate enough; we've got a lot of good markets. The league has been fairly stable over the last 5 to 10 years, and that's because we have good ownership and we have good markets.
And what a testament, right? The AHL celebrating its 90th season and the ability for a league to last that long. We know leagues come and go a lot, particularly in sports that aren't always the mainstay. We're not talking football or baseball here in the United States. We're talking about hockey, which I think has grown tremendously in popularity. I think about the lightning in the bottle of Four Nations last year when the rest of professional sports was kind of quiet, and people are suddenly looking and saying, wait, that hockey is kind of cool. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think the growth has been incredible. I apologize. I'm going to task the commissioner with teaching me something about the NHL CBA. How does that filter in for your organization and your players? Are the players governed by the same thing? And do people on the AHL level have input on how the CBA shakes out and how that affects players?
Well, we have our players are governed by their own CBA, and they have their own Professional Hockey Players Association. When what happens is a player that is on an NHL contract that gets assigned to the American League automatically becomes a member of the PHPA and part of our collective bargaining agreement. Obviously, there's some transition sometimes. If a player's been in the NHL a long time, he's going to still get some of the rights and benefits that the NHL CBA would provide. But by and large, as soon as they come to our league, they're part of the PHPA. And we are just negotiating a new CBA with our with the Professional Hockey Players Association, and slowly and painfully working through that for both sides. And hopefully, I know we will come to a solution and make sure our players are taken care of. They have a great health plan in our in that's funded by the NHL teams, and there's a lot of benefits. And the PHPA has done a great job over the years of making sure our players are taken care of, and will continue to do that.
I think of all the things that you mentioned at the beginning, right? Getting out of the pandemic and frankly being able for so many of your teams to be able to survive that and still put competitive product on the ice was such a success for you. I don't know very many people who took a job in July of 2020, but you did navigate that well. As you look at what you've done in the last 5 years, expanding the playoffs, some of the scheduling initiatives and things of that nature, where do you think you've been most successful, and what is the next iteration of what you want to do maybe in the next 5 years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned a couple of things I'm very proud of. First of all, most our teams are having success, and we've been able to increase attendance, increase our revenue for our teams, and make them successful financially by and large. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was the schedule unification, because you might remember we had teams playing 68 games and 76 games, and it was confusing for everybody, confusing for our fans. And when I was interviewing for the job, Ali, I said, I think we're going to be able to do this. I just don't know when. And the opportunity arose fairly early, and we got and a lot of people sacrificed. A lot of our team sacrificed. I'm sure the Hershey Bears ownership would rather play 76 games than play 72. But teams sacrificed for the good of the league, and we all came together. And part of it was the expanded playoffs. It was really important to the NHL teams that that we have more important games for our prospects through April and May. And by increasing the amount of teams in the playoffs, we accomplished that. And part of that was a schedule unification. So getting to 72 games was a not only the right move, but it was a hard move. And I was certainly proud of our group that we got through that. what's next is just is keep growing. We've got a very interesting um, NCAA rule that's sort of turning hockey on its face. I don't think it's going to affect our league too much, but we're watching that very closely with now junior hockey players being eligible to play in the NCAA. And in fact, some people don't know this. If you've played pro, there's some people that have played in the ECHL, AHL that are now going to college on a scholarship. So we'll see where that takes us, but really just continue to what we're doing. You mentioned this is our 90th year. The AHL did not look like this 90 years ago. It wasn't a development league. It is a development league now, and I want to make sure that we're doing that because that's what our teams want, and that's what our NHL partners want, and I think that's what our fans like too.
I will just say if Hershey wants the extra 4 games, they can make the playoffs.
There you go. Exactly.
Scott, we really appreciate the time, and we're just a couple weeks into the season, but best of luck as we head to the end of 2025.
Great spending time with you, Ali. Good luck.
You can find the A on our streaming app. Just search for ABC 27 News Plus. We will have new episodes posted every Thursday of the 2025-26 season. But for now, I am Ali Barubi, and this is the A.